Welcome to Tribeca 2026.
What's going on, world? Once again, it's your boy Derek Dunn back with another A1 interview. As you all know, Tribeca is in full swing, and I have the pristine pleasure of conducting another interview. And the talent I'm speaking with today is kind of tied to my military background, if you will. So just a quick little story. So as you all know, that I'm a Air Force vet, former DJ, and I had my share of wild times while stationed in the UK. And one of my most memorable experiences was in my clubbing days back in let's just say I was in my early 20s. In the club, oversized white tee, oversized hat, and one of my partners, who shall remain nameless, had a grill in his mouth. And so we're in the club, and a certain young lady was so fascinated by his grill, she asked this man, can she kiss his teeth? So I'm just taken aback because I'm just like, you don't even know this cat. You don't know his dental hygiene. You just want to. It's like, no, sir, it's the grill. It's just so shiny. It's fascinating. So I say that story to say my guest today is Lyle Lindgreen, and he has a doc premiering in Tribeca called Mouthful of Gold, which explores the history of grills. So welcome to the line, sir. Congratulations for making the Tribeca, and thank you for taking time out of I know your busy schedule to chop it up with me.
No, thank you. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, cool. That's a crazy anecdote, but that it's quite interesting because that kind of links to the whole story, like of the origin of the film. You couldn't get grills like in the UK. We had like a gold teeth culture that was linked to like West Indian communities in places like Brixton, but you really couldn't get them. And we had the poster boy of drum and bass, which was Goldie in the 90s, who was a massive icon of dance music. And so he was the closest we got. And he, of course, had a mouthful of gold teeth. And then very ironically, he used to live with, Eddie's brother, the originator. And so that's the kind of full circle moment. But you just couldn't get them in the UK. It wasn't a thing until the sort of 2012 onwards.
So let's talk about Famous Eddie. How did you get in contact with Famous Eddie? And was he always someone that you wanted featured in the doc heavily? Because when you think about Grillz, from hip hop background, of course you're gonna think about DJ Drama, the whole Gangsta Grillz mixtape series. You're gonna think about Big Gip. But why
Mhm.
was Famous Eddie your key figure you wanted featured in the doc?
So I've been obsessed with grills since I was a kid, and seeing the Gravediggers album cover with the RZA pre kind of Wu Tang explosion, and he had the vampire fangs, and I would see that as a kid, and I wanted a set. And then, like I said, Goldie was like our poster boy, so he would be in tabloid newspapers. He was in James Bond. He was in Snatch. He was like everywhere when I was kind of a younger kid growing up. And then as I kind of went into film, I've had a whole career as a rapper, kind of been there, done that, and then moved into film. And so all my film work would kind of be related to hip hop. Like I've been a hip hop head forever. And so weirdly, this opportunity came up to film with Goldie, and he wanted some films made for an art exhibition he was doing. He's the first British guy to ever paint graffiti on a subway train in New York in the 80s. So he is a trailblazer. And so I kind of went with him to New York to make this app. And this is around Instagram blowing up and ASAP Rocky's like coming of age 2012. And I hashtag Grillz. I'd spent many years trying to get him in the UK to no avail. And I had a guy who was making Rocky's teeth come to my hotel, take my mold. He made me that vampire set that the RZA had, and I showed them to Goldie in our room, and he was like, "They're cool, but they don't fit quite right. Let me take you to the guy, who invented them. I used to live with his brother." And so we went and met Eddie, and he told us the story in the basement where it all started in their family home in Brooklyn. And I remember thinking, as someone that's been obsessed with hip hop for 10, 15 years, why don't I know this story? And he's telling me, I've made teeth for Jay-Z when he was a teenager, through to Ludacris, Big Gip, who you mentioned, Nas, everyone. And it felt like, this is crazy that there's this guy kind of, in obscurity in this basement. I wonder where we could take this. So we started it as a short film, and it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's been a book with 3 different volumes, and now we finally finished a documentary, and it's premiering at Tribeca. So yeah, really, it was just like with Eddie, this story is something I feel I should know we need to kind of pursue this and tell it.
Dope. So while I love a good doc, I'm also a big fan of traditional narratives, especially in the hip hop phase. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're from the UK. So
Yeah.
was there ever a time where you maybe thought about doing a traditional narrative that kind of focused possibly on the emergence of Grillz in the UK and kind of like a coming of age story? Did you always want to stick with the doc for your feature?
Not really. I've got quite like a cinematic sensibility. So I come from a world of doing short films, but I've always had quite like an American edge because this is a culture I'm interested in. So my first music videos were for like Rock Marciano. You know, I'd have Sean Price from Boot Camp Click in that video, shot videos for Kevin Gates. I'm always back and forth to America, shooting a lot in Miami. And so when it came to making this, what was quite interesting was there's this story and we've made a traditional documentary, but there's gaps in Eddie's archive. So we've shot loads and loads of the film as dramatic reconstructions. We've done the whole film in anamorphic. We've deliberately chosen to think about this kind of story should be told in the same way that you tell Goodfellas, you tell Casino, like it's cinematic. There's moments where we've dramatized like young Eddie at that kitchen stove, waxing up like his first sets of teeth. And as a filmmaker, you would hear these anecdotes and you would play them in your mind and you'd think, this is crazy. We should like redo this. We don't have the archive, so let's make this as cinematic as possible. So it's a bit of a hybrid of a film. You have the sit down interviews with, you know, Eddie, Goldie, ASAP Rocky, people like Convertible Burt from Miami, Michelle Lammy. But then we've gone and shot dramatized sequences of like, you know, Goldie walking through the airport when he first arrived in Miami in like 88 through to, you know, Eddie seeing Grillz, the music video on TV for the first time in his shop in Atlanta. So there was like a conscious decision to think about these kind of films and these stories. They don't get the shine cinematically that they should. So we really wanted to put this on a pedestal and go all out and make it as high end as we could. And we had a limited budget, but I think we've made something really special.
Yeah, well, I'm very intrigued to watch it and get my thoughts on it. So I know that you have a lot of talent in the film. Big Gip is one of the names.
Yeah.
Was there anybody that you reached out to that you just couldn't get a hold of because schedules were kind of conflicting, or did you pretty much get all the talent that you wanted featured in the film?
There was an opportunity to get Pharrell, and this was probably in an iteration of this film before it is now. So I've been making it for like 10 years in different formats, but we made it real seriously in the last 3 years. But there was an opportunity to film Pharrell right as COVID happened. And then that opportunity kind of became like, this is going to have to be remote. And how we were planning to put the film together, we kind of didn't want to do it remote. We wanted to shoot it anamorphic, make all the interviews super cinematic. So I would say he's the one that got away. And then maybe like Nigo, who used to be the creative director, creator of Bape. He always had the most crazy sets in the 2000s. So he was getting permanent grills made and then he was taking them out like every other month, switching up colors, having Bape camouflage colors. So they're probably the two that I would love to have got, but they're represented in the film through archive and they're kind of note in history doesn't go amiss. We didn't kind of leave them out because we didn't get them. They had to be there regardless.
Dope, dope. So just hearing you talk about your passion and just the anamorphic and just the way you shot it. It's 2026 now. AI is kind of coming through and taking over. And while I still think that Hollywood's going to have a foothold in the film industry, I mean, pretty much now you can just get a pen and a pad, for my old school head out there, get an iPhone and shoot a film and shop it to, the major. So as a filmmaker yourself, I mean, what advice can you offer to the inspiring next generation to get their stories out there, how they want to tell them?
I mean, I think AI is obviously a resource that works really well, especially in a commercial world, right? Where you want everything to be almost perfect. We're thinking about, that can of Coke with, the moisture that's like perfectly going down it at the right time and, different aspects of that. But I think there'll always be a human element, like human stories, characters that you couldn't possibly dream up. I mean, I feel like Eddie is one of them. Like he's this type of character that's just in a basement and you would pass him on the street in Brooklyn, and you would never know the effect that he's had. That you've got guys in the Louis Vuitton show in Paris now wearing gold grills monograms because of this dude from Brooklyn. So I think whilst it's a scary prospect, I think there's always been the spirit of cinema that exists with people that want to tell stories the same way that you would around a campfire, centuries ago. And I think it's that passion to tell stories. That's why you have the Safdie brothers now coming from this world of indie, and people want to see Uncut Gems. They want to see Marty Supreme because they come from a place where it's like, we've got good taste, we make cool stuff. You kind of can't fake that. So I think it's for filmmakers, it's just don't be discouraged. I think you should always try and utilize technology around you and keep your skill set sharp. But I think it's about find stories that really interest you, because independent filmmaking, if you're not interested and invested in the story, it's very hard to bring that film from start to finish. Like, we made this for 10 years, and I would say it feels like a long time, but then it also doesn't, because I'm passionate about the subject and I kind of would have made it by hook or by crook. So yeah, that would be my advice, really. Just make things you like, and you'll find an audience.
Yeah, respect, man, and very inspiring. I did my little dabbling here and there with film school and kind of just didn't necessarily lose the passion, but it's just found other outlets to express my creativity. And even now, it's like, I'll start writing a novel, I'll get maybe like 200 pages deep, and I'll just stop and go back to something else. But I mean, yeah, I totally agree with I'm not totally against AI. I think the biggest thing is you have to know how to use it and how to make it
Mhm.
work, because you still have to kind of put the elements in there for it to work for
Yeah,
you. All it's doing is giving you the extra push. So shout out to
yeah.
people using AI. So speaking of grills, though, I mean, you kind of seem very well versed in the fashion of the grill and everything. So could you spot the difference between a fake grill and an authentic one?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I can see like the Timu grills from a mile away. And it's interesting. I'll see advertising campaigns, and I can tell when it's like, the set that just fold over your teeth. Like a real good set of grills or permanents, they should fit like a glove. You should almost forget that they're there because they're so comfortable. And that really comes from a good grill maker being a master at waxing. Like, there are certain people who will sit there and wax up a set. And this is like miniature sculpture, and they are just master artists. Like Eddie obviously has waxed thousands of sets of teeth. You could throw anything at him. There's a guy called Gabby Elan who's making teeth. He's been doing it for years, but it's like now his customers are Kim K, LeBron James, the biggest characters in the world. But Gabby comes from like a dental technician background, and he'll sit there and he'll wax to perfection. So I think you can tell like when they're sort of not the real deal. Um, and then you often see it in advertising. You'll see that someone's bought like a set that they look cool from the front, but they're just bending over. So yeah, I definitely have spent so long in this world now that, I mean, I'm like a geek connoisseur. I can tell you about, Kanye's grills through the years, da 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 da. So I'd like to think I've done my homework.
Right, my man. Well, congratulations again on your achievement. Looking forward to watching and sharing my thoughts, as I said earlier. However, being a hip hop head, and speaking of fellow hip hop head, I got to put you on the spot with a couple of questions before I
Mhm.
let you go. So, thinking cap on and no bias, just your preference. So, naturally up first, Kendrick or Drake? Whose concert are you going to first?
Oh, Kendrick. I was there front row at the O2 singing my heart out. Like, Good Kid, Mad City, I think is one of the greatest film albums of all time. You hear the projector kickstart it. So that album is like a masterclass in cinematic writing. You're there with him. You're in that minivan.
Second question. So, it's your second film, and both Pete Rock and Primo, DJ Premier, reach out to you. They want to score the film because they were just blown away by this one. Who you giving the work to first?
That is such a tough question. I
I
mean,
told you I put you on the spot, man.
yeah, I love Primo. Like, I think all the gangster stuff is like next level. I mean, do you know what? I might be slightly biased because there's a song recently that Pete Rock did with West Side Gun, and it's Pete Rock and the Mac Don't Stop, and that like made me go back in my Pete Rock rabbit hole. So no, I'm going to say Primo all the way, actually. Yeah, Primo would do it. There's certain things that he's done on those Gangstar albums. I'm quite like a dark filmmaker, and you hear them and it's just like the darkest score of all time. Things of like, there's that song M.O.P., Fat Joe, Guns. That just sounds like something that should be in a Scorsese film.
And speaking of film, what are you watching first on a Netflix and chill date? Fresh Groove or Beach Street?
I mean, I've got to be slightly biased. I'm going to say Beat Street, and that's just because I know one of my exec producers like loves it, and so he's passed his love on to me. So yeah, he's made me a super fan for that one.
All right, and the final question is, let's take it over to the good folks over at Master Pill Records and what they've been doing for hip hop for our generation, the 35 and plus up. I'm just turned 45 with Nas and with Slick Rick and with Mobb Deep. So who's one artist that you would love to see Mass Appeal do a project for that they haven't done with yet, that hasn't really necessarily got their flowers, but you're just a big fan of, and you would love to see them do something new in 2026?
I would say, just because I know they haven't worked with them, but they're self-sufficient in their own right, I think it'd be interesting if they did something with West Side Gun. I know that they did one of the first Griselda videos. There was like a video that the guys did like Jason Goldwatch, so maybe that don't count. I don't know. I feel like they work with everyone. Like I feel like they had it on lock from doing stuff with Rock Marcy and Run the Jewels, and it feels like if you do your time in the trenches, they'll come and find you. So maybe there's already someone that's not on my radar that's on their radar. They're very good at curating artists into like a bigger lane.
Yeah, mine, it's a hot take somewhat, but I would love to see Mass Appeal kind of dip into the R&B lane and do something with New Edition or with a yeah, New Edition, because I think they'd be able to still give them that signature sound,
Yeah,
modernized, but keeping them intact with their old school demographic. So you guys know I'm a big New Edition fan. So anytime I can plug New Edition, I'm gonna do it. Well, all right, sir. I
nice.
want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Again, I know it's very busy. I know how Tribeca is. Chop it up with me. Really enjoyed the convo. I am very excited to see your film. And where can
Thank
fans find you on social media and learn more about your project?
So on Instagram, I'm just very simply at Lyle Lindgren. And then in terms of, I mean, we got like a slew of really cool merch come in. So that's at www.monomania.mov. So we've got some crazy pieces we've curated that are kind of as if they were from the famous Eddie's brand. So that's all going to start kind of dropping post Tribeca. So I'd say those two places are the places to go and find everything out.
Cool, cool. All right, thanks again, man, and congrats on all your success.
Thank you.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Hi, this is Rihanna.
Hey, what's up? This is Ludacris.
For rocking with the best, it's Reviews and Done.